Welcome to the Trackpads Military Podcast, where history, leadership, and heroism come alive. Today's episode explores the American Civil War, Innovations in Warfare. Jason's new book, Uncommon Valor, Medal of Honor Stories from the Battle of Iwo Jima, is now available in Kindle, paperback, and a collectible hardcover edition. It's the first in a 10-part series exploring the incredible stories of Medal of Honor recipients from World War II. Meticulously researched and vividly told, Uncommon Valor takes readers deep into the brutal battle for Iwo Jima, honoring the Marines whose acts of heroism changed history. From the chaos of the beach landings to the iconic flag raising atop Mount Suribachi, this book captures the grit, sacrifice, and spirit of America's highest military honor. To learn more or grab your copy, visit militaryorders.com, and please follow Jason on Amazon to be informed of future releases. The American Civil War represented a monumental shift in the nature of warfare, driven by unprecedented advancements across industrial, technological, tactical, and medical fields. At its core, the conflict was not only a clash of ideologies and states, but also a proving ground for transformative innovations that would redefine how wars were fought. Industrialization brought mass production, railroads, and telegraph networks into military use, significantly reshaping the logistical capabilities and battlefield communications that armies relied upon. Meanwhile, breakthroughs such as rifled muskets, breech-logging artillery, and repeating firearms dramatically increased the lethality of combat, compelling military leaders to reconsider traditional tactics and strategies. Simultaneously, naval warfare evolved rapidly, epitomized by the historic encounter between ironclad warships and the early, daring use of submarines. These maritime advancements, combined with effective blockade strategies, highlighted the increasing importance of industrial capacity and technological innovation in achieving strategic dominance. Moreover, the massive human cost of the war spurred remarkable progress in battlefield medicine, logistics, and public health practices. By the war's end, the United States had emerged fundamentally changed, not only politically and socially, but militarily and technologically, setting a lasting precedent for warfare in the modern age. The role of industrialization. The Industrial Revolution fundamentally transformed warfare during the American Civil War, significantly impacting how armies were equipped and sustained in the field. Mass production techniques allowed both the Union and Confederate armies to manufacture vast quantities of weapons and ammunition rapidly. Rifled muskets, which replaced older, smoothbore muskets, emerged as one of the most important products of this industrial shift, drastically increasing soldiers' accuracy and effective range. Ammunition, including the mini-ball, could now be produced in factories at unprecedented speed, ensuring soldiers rarely experienced shortages during crucial battles. Railroads dramatically altered logistics, becoming the lifelines for rapid troop deployments and continuous supply movements. Prior to railroads, armies had relied heavily on traditional methods like wagons and riverboats, severely limiting their operational reach and sustainability. The railroad system enabled large numbers of troops to move swiftly from one battlefield to another, maintaining strategic flexibility and operational momentum. For instance, the Union's extensive railway networks proved critical in transporting soldiers and materials efficiently, providing them with a strategic advantage that the Confederacy struggled to counter effectively. The telegraph brought revolutionary changes to military communication, making rapid coordination and decision-making possible over vast distances. Commanders who previously relied on couriers and written messages, which often took days to deliver, now received near-instantaneous updates from the front lines. Abraham Lincoln utilized telegraph stations extensively, monitoring battles directly from the War Department in Washington District of Columbia. This innovation allowed the Union to quickly respond to battlefield developments and adjust strategies promptly, creating a new standard for real-time command and control. Ironclad warships vividly symbolize the era's industrial prowess, marking a dramatic evolution in naval technology and combat capabilities. the iconic duel between the United States ship Monitor and the Confederate States ship Virginia, formerly the United States ship Merrimack, in March 1862, showcased how iron-armored vessels rendered wooden ships obsolete overnight. These ironclads, driven by steam engines and protected by thick iron plates, demonstrated the stark contrast between traditional naval architecture and modern industrialized warfare. Their use underscored the critical role of manufacturing capacity and technological sophistication in achieving naval dominance. Industrialization undeniably favored the Union's overall war effort, emphasizing the strategic advantage of superior industrial infrastructure. The northern states housed the majority of America's factories, mills, and railroads, and their industrial output dwarfed that of the agricultural South. This industrial supremacy allowed the Union to field well-supplied armies, sustain prolonged campaigns, and replace lost equipment and soldiers quickly. In contrast, the Confederacy grappled continuously with shortages of weapons, ammunition, and basic supplies due to limited manufacturing capabilities, a factor that significantly shaped the war's progression. Advancements in weaponry, the introduction of rifled barrels and the mini-ball dramatically altered infantry combat during the Civil War. Rifling, the practice of adding spiral grooves inside gun barrels, imparted a spin to projectiles that significantly enhanced both range and accuracy. The mini-ball, a conical projectile that expanded upon firing, tightly gripped these grooves, enabling infantrymen to engage targets effectively at distances exceeding 300 yards. This innovation fundamentally changed battle dynamics, making frontal assaults far deadlier and leading to increasingly costly engagements. Artillery also underwent significant technological advancements, notably through the introduction of breech-load cannons and rifled artillery. Breech-loading artillery allowed crews to reload faster and safer without exposing themselves extensively as they would with traditional muzzle-loading cannons. Rifled artillery barrels enabled gunners to deliver explosive shells accurately over greater distances, drastically improving battlefield support capabilities. Such artillery innovations meant that fortifications, previously deemed secure against traditional cannons, were now vulnerable targets. The advent of repeating firearms, particularly the Spencer repeating rifle, marked a significant leap forward in small arms technology. Unlike single-shot muskets, the Spencer rifle allowed a soldier to fire multiple rounds before needing to reload, offering a substantial tactical advantage in combat. Troops equipped with these rifles could deliver rapid, sustained fire, reshaping battlefield tactics and increasing infantry firepower exponentially. The Spencer's effectiveness was particularly evident during battles like Gettysburg, where Union cavalry, equipped with these rifles, disrupted Confederate formations. The Civil War also witnessed the early and innovative use of grenades and landmines in combat, reflecting increasingly sophisticated approaches to warfare. Hand grenades, initially rudimentary iron or glass spheres filled with explosive powder, became effective tools for clearing trenches and defensive positions. Similarly, landmines, often referred to as torpedoes, were employed, notably by Confederate forces, to defend strategic locations such as riverbanks and approaches to key fortifications. These explosive devices introduced new threats on the battlefield, requiring adjustments in movement and tactics by opposing forces. As weaponry evolved, so too did military tactics, marking a notable transition away from traditional linear infantry formations toward trench warfare and sharpshooting techniques. Soldiers learned that exposed lines were vulnerable to the increased accuracy and range of rifled firearms, prompting commanders to adopt more defensive tactics. Trenches, foxholes, and earthworks became essential defensive measures, foreshadowing the trench warfare that would dominate World War I decades later. Concurrently, specialized sharpshooters emerged, targeting enemy officers and artillerymen at extended distances, further intensifying the lethality and psychological pressures of Civil War battlefields. Naval innovations. One of the most iconic developments in Civil War naval warfare was the advent of ironclad ships, dramatically showcased in the historic clash between the United States ship Monitor and the Confederate-shaped ship Virginia, formerly the United States ship Merrimac, at Hampton Roads in March 1862. This duel marked the first-ever engagement between armored warships, demonstrating the revolutionary effectiveness of iron plating over traditional wooden hulls. The Monitor's innovative revolving gun turret allowed greater tactical flexibility, while the Virginia's heavy armor and powerful broadside cannons reflected the Confederate effort to counter the Union blockade. The confrontation set the stage for a global shift toward armored naval vessels, signaling an end to wooden warship dominance. Submarine technology emerged notably during the Civil War, exemplified by the Confederate vessel CSS Hunley. This pioneering submarine represented a significant step forward, demonstrating both the possibilities and perils of underwater combat. Although primitive by today's standards, the Hunley succeeded in sinking the Union warship United States ship Housatonic off Charleston in February 1864, marking the first recorded instance of a submarine successfully attacking an enemy vessel. Despite its tragic loss after the attack, the Hunley underscored the potential for submarines in naval strategy, laying important groundwork for future maritime warfare innovation. The Union Navy's blockade strategy, known as the Anaconda Plan, showcased another critical naval innovation. This strategy aimed to choke off Confederate trade and supply lines by establishing a comprehensive naval blockade around southern ports and along the coastline. Initially criticized for its ambitious scope, the Anaconda Plan ultimately proved highly effective, gradually weakening Confederate economic and military capabilities. The blockade limited critical imports, such as weapons, ammunition, and medicines, forcing Confederate forces to increasingly rely on smuggling and risky blockade-running operations to sustain their war effort. Maritime warfare also witnessed the extensive use of underwater mines, then known as torpedoes, which became key defensive and offensive tools. Confederate forces strategically placed these explosive devices along rivers and harbor entrances to deter or damage Union vessels. Notably, Admiral David Farragut's famous order, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead," during the Battle of Mobile Bay, vividly highlighted the tactical challenges these mines presented. Their presence compelled navies to develop specialized minesweeping and detection techniques, significantly altering naval operational procedures and cautioning against overly aggressive maneuvers. Technological advancements during the Civil War fundamentally reshaped naval tactics, prompting commanders to rethink established approaches to maritime combat. The effectiveness of ironclads forced navies to develop new tactics, such as close-range engagements rather than relying solely on broadside exchanges common with wooden ships. Moreover, submarines and mines introduced entirely new threats beneath the waterline, necessitating increased vigilance and adaptations in defensive measures. Overall, these innovations required naval officers to become more tactically versatile and technologically aware, significantly influencing the evolution of naval doctrine in subsequent conflicts. Battlefield strategies and tactics. The American Civil War marked a profound shift away from traditional Napoleonic tactics, characterized by massed infantry formations engaging in close-order combat, toward more defensive, entrenched positions. This shift primarily arose from advancements in weaponry that drastically increased the lethality of frontal assaults, compelling commanders to seek protective cover and employ earthworks extensively. Battles like Fredericksburg and Cold Harbor vividly demonstrated the deadly consequences of outdated offensive tactics, where entrenched defenders inflicted devastating casualties on attacking forces. Consequently, troops began routinely constructing fortified positions, trenches, and breastworks, setting a precedent that foreshadowed future wars dominated by defensive warfare. Another significant innovation in battlefield strategy during the Civil War was the effective implementation of combined arms tactics, integrating infantry, cavalry, and artillery to create cohesive battlefield actions. Commanders increasingly recognized the value of coordinating diverse combat arms, leveraging the mobility of cavalry for reconnaissance, disruption, and rapid pursuit, while artillery provided suppressive fire and infantry maneuvered to exploit breaches. Battles such as Gettysburg and Antietam showcased the critical interplay among these arms. emphasizing the importance of synchronized operations in achieving battlefield superiority. This strategic integration required commanders to think more holistically and plan carefully to exploit the unique strengths of each combat branch. The Union's use of scorched earth policies, exemplified dramatically by General William Tecumseh Sherman's March to the Sea in 1864, represented another shift in Civil War strategy. Sherman deliberately targeted civilian infrastructure, crops, and transportation networks to undermine Confederate morale and logistical support. His forces systematically destroyed railroads, plantations, warehouses, and supplies as they marched from Atlanta to Savannah, inflicting lasting economic damage that severely hindered Confederate war efforts. While controversial, Sherman's tactics effectively demonstrated how total warfare could accelerate an adversary's collapse by extending military conflict into civilian domains. Confederate forces frequently employed guerrilla tactics to offset the Union's numerical and logistical advantages, significantly impacting the dynamics of the war. Small, mobile Confederate units, such as those led by partisan leaders like John Singleton Mosby, conducted swift raids and ambushes, disrupting Union supply lines. These guerrilla operations effectively stretched Union resources, forcing commanders to divert significant numbers of troops away from the front lines to protect rear areas and supply routes. The psychological impact of these unpredictable strikes further complicated Union efforts, showcasing how unconventional warfare tactics could strategically influence larger operations. Reconnaissance and intelligence gathering emerged as increasingly crucial aspects of Civil War strategy, profoundly influencing the planning and execution of operations. Accurate intelligence allowed commanders to make informed decisions regarding troop placements, battle timing, and strategic movements, reducing uncertainty and risk. Both sides relied extensively on scouts, spies, and observation balloons to monitor enemy movements and gather valuable insights into opposing forces' intentions and capabilities. Union intelligence networks, particularly the Bureau of Military Information, organized by General Joseph Hooker, played pivotal roles in battles such as Gettysburg, highlighting the strategic significance of timely and accurate battlefield information. Medical and logistical advances. The American Civil War spurred significant advancements in battlefield medicine, notably with the introduction of organized triage systems. Prior to the conflict, wounded soldiers often faced prolonged delays in treatment, exacerbating mortality rates from even minor injuries. Medical personnel began employing triage, systematically prioritizing patients based on injury severity and urgency of care, ensuring those most critically injured received immediate attention. Surgeons implemented field hospitals closer to the front lines, dramatically improving survival rates by providing timely interventions and reducing delays between injury and initial treatment. One of the most impactful medical innovations was the establishment of the United States Sanitary Commission in 1861, aimed at improving overall camp hygiene and reducing disease among soldiers. Recognizing that illness caused significantly more deaths than battlefield wounds, the Sanitary Commission initiated rigorous inspections of military camps, advocated for proper sanitation practices, and educated soldiers on basic hygiene principles. They organized supplies of medical necessities, clean clothing, and nutritious foods, drastically reducing incidences of preventable diseases such as dysentery, typhoid, and cholera. This proactive approach marked one of the earliest large-scale applications of public health principles in wartime. The Civil War also saw major developments in evacuation and transportation of the wounded, highlighted by the widespread use of dedicated ambulance services. Previously, soldiers injured in battle depended largely on their comrades or rudimentary wagons to reach medical care, often suffering greatly during transport. Under Surgeon Jonathan Letterman's leadership, Union forces standardized ambulance corps operations, ensuring specially designed vehicles staffed by trained personnel swiftly transported casualties from battlefields to hospitals. This streamlined process significantly reduced mortality rates, minimized suffering during transport, and establish foundational principles for modern combat medical evacuation systems. Logistical advances extended beyond medicine to include revolutionary changes in military supply chains, specifically through standardized rations and portable field kitchens. Recognizing that efficient sustenance directly affected combat readiness, Union quartermasters introduced standard rations like hardtack, salted meats, and coffee, ensuring soldiers received consistent nutrition regardless of location. Portable field kitchens enabled rapid food preparation near battle sites, substantially improving the mobility and effectiveness of armies on extended campaigns. These innovations ensured troops remained better fed, healthier, and thus more capable of sustained combat operations. The unprecedented scale of casualties and logistical demands of the Civil War provided numerous critical lessons that influenced future military planning and operations. Commanders learned firsthand the importance of preemptive logistical arrangements. Realizing supply chain disruptions could decisively cripple operational effectiveness. Medical practitioners discovered the crucial roles of sanitation, timely medical intervention, and organized evacuation procedures in minimizing fatalities and improving soldier recovery. These experiences established enduring principles that reshaped military logistics, emergency medicine, and public health strategies in conflicts that followed. Conclusion: the American Civil War served as a pivotal catalyst for profound transformations in military practice, driven by relentless innovation and adaptation under the pressures of conflict. From the revolutionary application of industrialized production methods and rail-based logistics to groundbreaking weaponry and naval technologies, the war showcased a critical evolution in how nations approached armed conflict. New battlefield tactics, including trench warfare and combined arms strategies, became essential responses to increased weapon lethality, altering the traditional dynamics of combat and setting the stage for future conflicts. Furthermore, the war underscored the indispensable importance of advancements in medical care, hygiene practices, and logistical efficiency in sustaining large-scale military operations. The establishment of systematic triage, ambulance services, and improved camp sanitation directly addressed the devastating impact of disease and battlefield injuries, setting critical precedents for future medical practices in warfare. Collectively, these innovations illustrate how the American Civil War was not merely a historical conflict, but a defining moment of military transformation, whose lessons and legacies continue to influence contemporary warfare strategies and technologies. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the Trackpads Military Podcast. If you'd like to dive deeper into more stories of courage, leadership, and battlefield history, visit trackpads.com for articles, podcast archives, and exclusive content. You can also explore the library of military history books and ongoing series by visiting militaryauthor.me. Whether you prefer to read, watch, or listen, there's always more to discover. Until next time, keep exploring, stay inspired, and remember, the lessons of the past shape the warriors of the future.